to Office Hours. First of all, I just want to say I made a typo. That's on me. Akela's name in the card has an M on the end of it, and I'll try to fix it later today. It is Drissner, not Drissner. That is on me, and I apologize. Akela, while we're waiting for folks to come in with their cats, their questions slash chats. If y'all want to share like your I don't know cat emojis as well, please feel free. Um, I was hoping you'd tell me a little bit more about what it is the customer success team does, because we've had a lot of customer success folks on the office hours, but you are the big boss.
Yes. Yeah, I lead the team of customer success engineers. Yeah. So, I mean, our team works really closely with all our enterprise customers to help them, yeah, build their bots, just kind of guide them through that process and also help them through deployment and getting ready for production and stuff like that. And yeah, and then making sure that like things are still going smoothly once the bot is in production. And yeah, helping them continue to improve their bots.
And I know we can't talk like about all of our clients for privacy reasons, but I will tell you, Akela works with some very big clients. Um, and a question that I think a lot of our users end up having, particularly is they're building their assistants, they're getting going, and they're using them for work. At what point are you like, okay, now it's time for me to switch to Rasa Enterprise? I've got my prototype, maybe I've been doing a little CDD, and I feel like I need something more.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it is a lot. It is usually quite related to whether they're like, considering actually like going live with this assistant that they're building. Like if they're, yeah, once it becomes kind of a project that is like critical to their business, they start to think, okay, we need to like actually get like an enterprise subscription here to make sure we have the like support we need and also all the necessary like security measures that come with Rasa Enterprise. Yeah,
So if it's an important thing to your business and you need it to
pretty
work
much.
and you need it to be secure, that's when Rasa Enterprise is right for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess the flip side of that is, so that's when someone's been working in the Rasa framework and they're like, all right, I'm ready to take it to the next level. This bot is really important. Um, when like there are many different platforms and frameworks for building virtual assistants. They all have their pros and cons. But if someone was interested in moving from a different platform to Rasa, what sort of things would you have them keep in mind? Obviously, every migration is going to be different, but I know you've worked with a lot of people who are
Yeah,
migrating.
sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they are all very different. You are right in saying that. I think, yeah, I mean, there's something you should always keep in mind there that it's not gonna be like super easy to migrate. Like we do have some kind of scripts to help you with that migration process, but like especially with with like IBM Watson, for example, there's just like the underlying software just works so differently to what we do that it's like quite a bit of work. But that being said, like as long as you kind of have the resources to do it, then yeah, things usually go fine. And we also help a lot of clients migrate, and yeah, a lot of them decide to migrate to Rasa usually because the bot that they currently have in production with another competitor of ours isn't like they've kind of reached the limits of it, and that's when
Mm-hmm.
they kind of want to switch to Rasa.
Yeah, that was going to be my second question. Like, what's sort of the most common reason for
Yeah,
wanting to do a migration? Because as you mentioned, it's takes a lot of time, very complex, lots of moving
yeah.
parts. Particularly like if you don't want downtime and making sure that you're handling that well. Um, yeah, and are there? I mean, again, every case is going to be different, but do you notice any particular themes where people are like, I really need my assistant to do X, and it's so important that I'm going to migrate to have it be able to do X.
Hmm. That's a good question. I mean, yeah, I think there's lots of reasons. I mean, I think the really big thing is just like it's the flexibility of Rasa as well. Like you can kind of change anything that you want to change when you need to change it. And yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot of like challenges that come with managing the assistant, like as it scales. Like once there's just loads and loads of use cases and intents, things become a lot more complex. And I think, like, I mean, to be honest, nobody has that fully figured out. I will say, like, we also don't have this fully figured out yet, but we're, you know, that is one of our active like research areas and stuff. But I think yeah, when things get to scale, this like flexibility also becomes more and more important, and that is also one of the like reasons they come to try out Rasa. Then they're like, okay, we need a better process for this, and like Rasa is like, you know, sole focus is on conversational AI, especially in the large enterprise, and so they kind of yeah, start looking into Rasa then.
And just letting y'all know, please feel free to ask your questions in the chat, and we will answer them. Otherwise, I'm gonna keep chatting with Akela, which is a rare delight for me. So I'm happy either way. Yeah, something that has come up for me a couple times talking with folks who have like some familiarity with other platforms is custom intents. Which the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, aren't all intents custom? And no. So some platforms will have pre-built intents where they're like, you know, you can call this and it'll, you know, classify text that's coming in and be like, oh, this is this based on the training data set that they have that they've provided for you and they've done the model training. And the fact that in Rasa your intents can be whatever you need them to be, based on the training data that you provide and the conversational flows that you provide, is, I don't know. I'm so deep in the Rasa framework, like guts at this point that I'm like, yeah, of course, that's how it is. But it's not like not every system works that way.
Yeah, I think most systems, they like I think Dialogflow definitely has some pre-built intents, but they do also let you train additional intents, as far as I know. Yeah. I guess we have like the opposite thing where we don't have any pre-built intents, although we do have like training data sets that are open source that you can use to like for common intents, like the greeting intent or buy or those kinds of things, and you can train your own models with those then. I mean, I think the reason we kind of tend towards not having like just pre-built intent models that you can't modify is because we think that it's better for you to just have the data and then like add your own things to it, because they will I mean, they will vary for your use case, right? Like people might say, I mean, obviously people usually say hi in the same way, but like if you're, you know, if you have like an assistant that has a name, then someone might be like, I don't know, hi, Neo, or whatever the assistant is called. So you kind of always want to have the option to extend your data set further.
So I'm trying to look for, is it not Rasa NLU examples? So I know we have a repository that has a bunch of.
There's one that's called like Rasa training data, I think.
Well, I'm just gonna like be looking for it. Rasa training data.
Yeah, Rasa HQ/NLU training data, I think.
Let's see if I can find that.
Yeah,
there we go. Okay, sorry, I just had the wrong.
I do not. I don't think. This is Tristan, Elise's partner, by the way, who's asking this question. He's starting a coffee business, so maybe he can build this bot for his business. True, yeah. Don't have to panic order then anymore. Yeah.
All right. Yes. Okay. I'm definitely. You can hear me here. You didn't hear any of my very good ideas about a coffee
Oh
bot.
no.
All right.
Wait, so has this been me talking this whole time?
No. I think it's because when I switched screens, I did not switch mics. So I'm gonna go back to the other screen and we're gonna look at examples. And if you repeat what I said, I will fix the thing.
Wait, what are we saying?
Oh, so just talking about what the coffee bot could be, or an example of how to use it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so what Rachel was saying is that she would use it like while she was in in a coffee shop at peak hours, for example, to like ask the bot some questions about what kind of drinks they have, what the drinks are, what they're roasting today, stuff like that. Because often you don't have the time to do that with a barista, or the barista doesn't have time to do that with you.
And I think my audio should be fixed now. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah, not the whole time. Yeah. It was. I just got a new mic, and I thought I'd fix the setup, and I did the sound check for the one view, but not the other view, and that's on me. My apologies. But yeah. Hi, Nikki. Hi, Sam. So, like, just asking questions about drinks or allergens, or like, what are you roasting today? Or like, I like, very sweet drinks. What would you recommend? Like the type of conversations I would have with a barista. But like, I'm not gonna be rude. I'm not gonna hold up the line if there's a bunch of people in line. Like, that's just not me. But if I could have that conversation, uh, electronically, I would. And IDDP says it's fixed as well. Fantastic. Good to hear. Samantha says, I would want to know how hot the water should be in FRC, coffee to water ratio. Fixed. Fantastic. Yeah. I guess that would be for more like if someone is sending you the coffee to brew, or even like a step-by-step like brew walkthrough. I know that a lot of the voice assistants have something where you can like step through a recipe and they're like, here's all of the ingredients, or like
Right, yeah.
next step is, but having or even like a built-in timer for a pour over, that would be nice.
Cool. Yeah, lots of things you can do.
Definitely. I think like, I don't know, this gets into something that I think about a lot, which is, how do you know when something will work well as a conversation? Right? Because
Yeah.
I don't want every interaction I have with an electronic system to be conversational, right? Like me fixing my mic right now, I didn't want to have to type in a chatbot to be like, fix my mic for me. Here's the problem. It would not have been an efficient use of time, and it wouldn't have been, the best experience for me. But some things are genuinely better as conversations, and you've built or helped migrate a lot of assistance, Akela. So I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on this. What makes something good to have as a conversation?
Yeah. I mean, this is true. That's a very good question. I think there's like, I mean, I remember this one use case we worked on with a customer a while back, which was essentially kind of converting this like form that they had on their website to get out. I'm not going to mention what it is because I can't tell you who this customer is, but like it was basically this form that they had on their website that they'd like built and was actually really good to use. And they wanted to turn this into an assistant. But like it honestly shouldn't have been turned into an assistant. I don't think they like went ahead with the project and going it live in the end because it just kind of like made it more complicated to fill out this form, where it's like they already had this good thing that they built on their website, and that's kind of a situation where you don't really need an assistant. You're just kind of building one for the sake of building one. I mean, I think like the main thing people think of when there's assistance, it's usually like just customer support, basically. Like rather than having to, I don't know, like call your bank to do something simple and listen to like some automated recording tell you, here are your options, press 1 2 3. I think, I mean, those are the cases where like a bot can really save you a lot of time. And we have a lot of customers, like most of our customers use case are kind of doing some part of customer support with their assistant.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense because that's something that's already a conversation, right? Like I have
Yeah.
expectations about how it shall go. Shall. What am I, an English nanny? Anyway, and the mm, oh, right. So something that even if you don't want to take your customer service like completely to an automated place,
Mm.
like when I've worked in customer service or been supporting people in some way, I know I've talked about this on the channel before, but the things that people want are not evenly distributed across all the things that they could do, right? Most of your requests are going to be like the same 2 or 3 things every time. So if you have an assistant that can handle 2 or 3 requests really well, and then when it's like, that's not what this person wants, then kicks them into a human, that can save so much time. So
Yeah,
much
exactly.
time.
Yeah, it's these things that are like that your users ask about a lot and is not something you really need like a human
Yeah.
to be there for. And like as long as you kind of have a button or something or a way to like let the user go back and like talk to an actual person when they want to, then I think they're like, I mean, I don't know. Some people are resistant to bots, but I think the resistance like lowers significantly if you have there is still a way to contact someone if you
Mm-hmm.
need to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's often when people at least bring up bot like what they don't like about conversational interfaces. To me, it's like, yeah, I want to
Mhm.
talk to a human and it won't let me.
Yeah.
Which I can see. That's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like N26, we have N26 who have built their bot with Rasa. They're a big bank in, well, Europe, and I don't know if they're still in the US. They were at one point. I'm not sure if they still are. But anyways, yeah, they have an assistant in their app that is, yeah, built with Rasa. And yeah, it's like reduced. And I'm like lost all of the words. Hold on. They basically have been able to handle like I think it's something like 20 or 30% of customer requests like without any human involvement, and like something that they like have in their app as well, just like always a button with like every message that is like let me talk to a human agent instead.
Yeah. Yeah, and having like instant replies and not having to wait for like your place in the queue. It's like if it saves people time, they like it. I would say that's like the
Yeah,
fundamental truth of conversational AI.
yeah,
Uh,
pretty much.
Louise wants to know about is the book Designing Voice User Interfaces by Kathy Pearl a good read? Yes. I've read it. It's great. Kathy's fantastic. Um, Voice interfaces and conversational interfaces are slightly different, so not everything is going to be applicable to a text-based assistant, but I think it's I don't know if you've read the book.
I have not, no.
I think for me, what it was most useful for, knowing that I was working with, I've worked with voice in the past, but these days I'm working with text, is really thinking about how systems integrate into people's lives. Like, where are you meeting people with your assistant when they talk to it? And how are you supporting them in that particular use case? And that's going to be different for voice assistants and text assistants. But I think it was really helpful to think about it from a design perspective. Um, Particularly if you happen to be, in the early stages of prototyping, you may or may not have a designer working with you, and trying to think in that user-focused, user-centered way was good. So I'd
Mm.
recommend it. I think it's a good read. If you're only ever going to be working on text, it will be, I think, informative and interesting to read, but maybe not the best use of your time. And if you really want to learn about Rasa and you like books, we actually have a book version of the Rasa Masterclass. Let me pull it up really quick. Pop that up. So it is a tiny bit out of date, but a lot of the sort of like broad stuff is still going to be accurate. And it's info.rasa.com/masterclass. The ebook is right here. And it was written for, I believe, Rasa 1.8.0. So the 2.0 stuff is not going to be in there. But just for sort of thinking about the Rasa approach and the way we think about intents and entities and slots, I think it's a really helpful introduction.
Yeah. And I think we are working on updating this, right?
Yep.
Picking that up.
Yep. Yes, I would say the whole DevRel team is very aware that that is a need and something that we are currently working on.
Yeah.
Urbanus says, could you guys also do videos on IVR in Rasa? Ooh, I never built an IVR system.
We actually are, like, actually my team have been working with that quite a bit because we have a lot of customers are now like interested in having IVR bots as well. So I think a few have actually already gone into production with them, but a lot of them are just like interested in doing this in general. And so we've been, someone from my team, Matthew, I don't know if he's been on these office hours yet, but he's been working on a prototype with IVR through Twilio, I think, and we're merging a connector to the Rasa open source repository for that, which I think should be part of the next 2.5 release.
Ooh.
So you can make videos on that then, Rachel.
That sounds much easier than me trying to build a system myself. And do you want to quickly talk about what IVR is? I will say this, everyone watching has probably used an IVR system.
Yeah. Basically, when you call up some like your insurance or the bank or something, and you get like an automated voice that will walk you through the options you have and what you can ask for, and it'll take care of like routing you somewhere and stuff like that. And I mean, in the past or even now, a lot of them are just like, if you would like to see your account statement, press 1, and then it keeps going with that until you get to the right number. And the idea with like putting a Rasa bot there is that you just make it easier for the user to navigate through that rather than having to listen to these long recorded messages and then press a button. They can just say what they want to do.
And making it faster, which again, people like
exactly.
to be efficient. I think there's since everything, I have been picking up my groceries, and when you show up at the store to pick up your groceries, you call it, and there's an IVR system that you use. So you're like, I'm here, my order number's this, and they'll be like, we'll be right out. If you have questions or want to talk to somebody, press this. So that's probably the IVR system that I use most often these days.
Yeah.
Urbana says, I'm waiting so much for that. Yes. Yeah, it should be good.
Yeah.
Lakshmi Naranya, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, says, we have used Rasa and Rasa X and deployed our chatbot successfully. Hey! Congrats! That's a big milestone. I don't have any like noisemakers or party hats, but
yeah.
Great to hear.
The IVR thing, I actually think we're also planning on having like, no, I don't know if a starter, I think we're working on modifying like one of our starter packs to be set up to work with the IVR channel as well. And we might have a like demo that's available. So I'm not saying might because I don't actually know where we are with this project, but my team is definitely looking into that at the moment.
Oh, that is fabulous. I know I'm not the only person looking forward to that based on the excitement in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
And while we wait for more questions to roll in, something that I know we get a lot of questions about. Sam says, HEB does that so much better. I'm guessing that is a grocery pickup thing. I'm guessing that's a grocery store. Question for you, Akela. You are yourself multilingual, and I'm assuming you've used assistants in multiple languages, and I know you've helped build assistants in multiple languages. Why would I assume you hadn't used them if you'd helped build them? What are your tips or things to watch out for folks who are interested in working in assistants in languages other than English? Because a lot of our documentation is in English, and a lot of our example assistants are in English as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, everything is easier in English because there's so many more resources for it, which is not great. But yeah, there are a lot more like resources, especially for word embeddings out there for other languages now, which is great. So I think we link to those from our docs as well. Like I don't know, the one that comes to mind immediately is like the fast text embeddings. You can at least like kind of plug those into Rasa open source and all kinds of embeddings. So I think the first step always is just figuring out if there are some embeddings for your language, because that will make your NLU model perform a lot better. Yeah, and aside from that, I think the other challenge, most of the challenges come down to NLU, I think. And the other main thing is like, it depends how your language is tokenized. So if it's white space tokenized, that makes things, again, easier because we have a lot of components for that. But then as soon as you go for other languages like Mandarin, for example, you will need a custom tokenizer for that. And of course you can build your own custom components to do this, or I think our community has also built a lot of them that are out there. I know we definitely have one for I think Mandarin and Cantonese and maybe also Japanese. Those are kind of the main things to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely. It's the NLU stuff. And I think it's the Jieba tokenizer for I don't know that it does Korean, but I know it does Chinese. And then we also have
I think we've definitely had some projects in Korean as well. So I think something exists out there too.
And also just a hint for people who are looking for embeddings for their language. If you search for like the ISO language code for your language plus embeddings on GitHub, that's where I've had the most success finding like small projects that maybe aren't super well documented, but may have the things that you can use if they're licensed appropriately. So, or at least might help you like get an idea of what research groups or companies are working on developing things in your language.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was actually just thinking as well. The main thing is definitely NLU, but I think the like conversation flow can also differ. Like you can, for some languages that are like similar, like if you have an assistant that is like in English and you want to make it into like a French one as well, most of the time you can just kind of use the same dialogue model and just like swap out the NLU. But I think for some like languages that are completely unrelated, I think some of them also have different like, the conversation flow kind of changes. Like having the same sequence of questions doesn't make as much sense in another language. So that's also something to consider.
And you'd also probably want to, for languages with like a rich honorific system, you might also need to change your flow as well. Like just like an example, whether you're using tu or vous in French at the sort of like simple end of things, and like on the very complex end of things, like the Aboriginal languages, the indigenous languages of Australia, where there's a really rich honorific system, I think would affect your conversation flow quite a bit. Lexmi's the chatbot they just deployed is for farmers. Oh, fantastic! That's really great to hear. Oh, I grew up on a farm, so I've got I was going to say positive feelings, mostly positive feelings. Urbanus has a great question. Can you do multiple languages in Rasa 2.0 at the same time?
Depends what you mean by the same time. I don't know. I think there's a few ways to interpret that question. If we're talking like just one NLU model with multiple languages, not really. I don't think. I know there are some like multilingual embeddings out there from Hugging Face or something, but like I wouldn't suggest doing that anyways, because you're gonna have to have different responses for different languages as well, and it's kind of tricky to do that. I don't think we're there yet with that.
Yeah. My sort of generic recommendation is that you have two different assistants, and then people are like, when people like start to interact with the assistant, either you have them pick the language and then route to the appropriate assistant, or you could do language detection to detect the language and then again route them to the appropriate assistant.
I think a lot of if you have like the user's profile wherever this assistant lives, then you can also like automatically fetch the locale from their user profile, and then you can switch the assistant to that. Yeah, and I mean, you can even like use, like in the case of like, if you have, this is again the N26 example, they have like a lot of, I think they have like 6 different languages that their assistant is in, and they just use one dialogue model and multiple NLU ones, and they just switch the NLU model based on, based on what language the user is speaking.
So, kind of, to answer your question, Urbanus, from the user's perspective, it can look like a single assistant.
Yeah.
Smutrio, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, says, I know it's not reliable. Can we dynamically add intense entities, stories, and domains using Python to train a model? And how hard will it be if I try? Oh, I think it depends on like what you mean by dynamically, like how often it's happening. If it's happening, like you're going through and you're annotating stuff and it's happening once a day, very straightforward. We anticipate that in the Rasa development cycle. If you are saying like as somebody is talking to the assistant, it changes during the conversation. Woof. I don't even know if that's theoretically possible.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, you'd have to retrain the assistant at every step, and you'd have to be okay with like the lag between turns in the conversation being you have just retrained your assistant and then like loaded in the conversation from the tracker store. I wouldn't do that, but I would we anticipate that you're going to add intents, add, conversations, add entities over the life of your assistant. Yeah. I don't know if you have anything to add about that, Akela.
No, I think that covers it.
And if you're looking for more information on that, it's called conversation driven development, and we have, let me pull up the playbook. Hopefully enough of those characters are right. I'm so glad y'all can't see when I type in the search bar. And that's on dyslexia. All right. So we have this playbook that goes through, what that process looks like and a lot of the tooling that we have to support it, and fixing and testing. And I'd recommend this if you're interested in just sort of more guidance on how the process can work. Enrique asks how to fix in the config the message user warning when training, saying model confidence is set to Softmax. That must be Softmax, or just a warning that will change in the next version.
Is that the full warning message?
I don't know. Config user.
I mean, I know this, like the Softmax warning thing, I think is, oh God, we introduced some new, way to, I think, loss functions or something. I don't know what we introduced anymore. It was something that we changed in the underlying config. And I know there was one version we introduced a new thing, but then in the next version we removed it because after some more experiments we realized it actually makes it worse. So that might be what you're seeing. Or alternatively, it's just asking you to try out this new loss type. There we go. I just looked it up. I was like, is it a loss type or is it something else? It might just be recommending you to try something new out because we figured it's better, or it might be telling you that this is being removed in the next version because we accidentally added this in a previous version. So yeah, I don't know which version of Rasa open source you're on.
And I don't see a post about it in the forums, so I might post about it in the forums so we could see like the whole user message, the user warning. I think that would be helpful for answering the question more thoroughly. Smetrio says you can use the model confidence linear norm in the config file under the TED policy, but it's fine, just a warning. Yeah. I will say I ignore warnings all the time. If it's a security warning, I check it out right away. But if it's just like you could do it differently, I'm like, yeah, I could. Not gonna. It's working now.
Yeah, a user warning is usually nothing that dramatic. It's you're probably okay. A lot of the time it's about no, actually I think we have a separate deprecation warning for things that we deprecate, but yeah.
And about the dynamically adding stuff over the life of the assistant, Svantrio says, "Thank you, got it." Yeah, I hope that helps. Gabrielle says, "I have doubts about the interpretation of the graph generated when comparing pipelines." Do we have an example of the graph in the docs?
Oh, I think this is this the wait.
Here, y'all can watch me frantically scrolling.
Yeah, that's I'm simultaneously doing that too. I think wait, I need to find where is the command line interface? Am I?
When comparing. Yeah, because it's in the.
I think this is the like what is it called? It's like I think it's rather test with some flags or something like that.
Test core, test MLU, the evaluation.
I don't actually know what the output of this looks like anymore. I did contribute this code at some point, and but
I
wait.
would pull it up on my computer, but the widget for displaying the graphs in line does not work on my particular Windows Visual Studio combination.
Wait, there is a. Let me send you the link to this on.
Ooh, that would be fantastic.
I just found a page on comparing NLU pipelines.
All right, test train split, exclude training models, feature configuration, evaluate on the global test train split. F1 score graph. Oh, okay. So this one in particular.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think there's that one, and there's also
the mean and standard deviation of the F1 scores across all ones. And then interpreting the
output. Wait, I remember. I think I remember what this was.
And then there's a histogram that allows you to see the confidence for all your predictions. So I can sort of give you a general sort of. So basically, the F1 score graph is to help you understand if you are over or under fitting. And what you will generally see is it'll improve over time. So F1 goes up. So it'll improve over time. And then at some point, as you continue to add data in the situation where you have infinite data, it will flatten out. And as you continue to add more data, it's going to take more time to train, but you're not going to get the same amount of benefit from adding additional data. And that's sort of the general pattern for all of those types of graphs. And your goal, again, in the situation where you have sort of like infinite data, is that you stop training right at that elbow, right? Where you've seen all the improvement you're going to see. Adding additional training data isn't going to do much for you. And that means that you're efficiently using all your data. You're not underfitting, so there's not more signal you could learn, and you're not overfitting. You're not, continuing to try and like pick up random fuzz in the data because you've gotten everything that you're going to. So that's how I would say that. And Gabrielle says, Rasa test NLU cross-validation, config 1, config 2, config 3, etc.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then the other one.
I think the interpreting the output is not part of the comparison. I think that's just the general evaluating NLU.
Yeah. So then it sounds like this one, and yeah, that looks like what the graph is based on the plots. Again, I can't see them on this computer because they don't work. Again, it's just it's a rendering issue that's operating system specific. Yeah, I hope that helped. Without the cross validation. Yeah. When I can pair 5 different pipelines, is the number of error in intention a sum of the pipelines? So if you're doing models for each configuration, evaluate each model. I think it should be reported for each model independently.
I think it generates like a few different folders. So I don't think, yeah.
Also, while we're digging around, Cigar says, I developed and deployed a Rasa chatbot named Verna for a reputed AI company. Hey, congratulations. I need to get like some sort of noisemaker for when people tell me about their successes during streams. One sec, I got a little Lego corgi. Yay! That's fantastic. Congrats. Again, big
This is
milestone.
what like this is what Twitch would be good for, right? They have all this like stuff you can put up.
The only one I have is I know you can't see it, but Sarah pops up and tells you the forum address. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I should do another one that's like party time, deployment party. I'll add that to my to-do list. I'm gonna be honest, it's not near the top of my to-do list, but it would be nice. Party. Yeah, I would be shocked if the results weren't generated separately for each model.
Yeah, they should be.
Because you're comparing them, right? Like you should get the information out for each of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you can also do the same thing for the dialogue model. Like you can also compare various configurations of the like TED policy, for example.
Each config
There's
file.
1,000 police cars or ambulances going past my apartment right now.
I think we've only heard like one in the distance. I think Zoom's catching most of the noise stuff.
Yeah, I also mute myself occasionally because at one point there was definitely like multiple fire trucks going by, which is not something that everyone needs to hear.
Yeah, so I don't know. I hope that helped Gabrielle. I would check in the other folders so you can see them. And I think the plots are actually generated in the folders, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they should be per
Mhm.
configuration. I mean, it might be that they're all on one plot to like compare them, but yeah. This code came from like the first, like I wrote a paper with Vova and Alan like ages ago on the like policy that came before TED, I think, and that's where that code is from.
I was gonna pull up the paper. We don't need to. I don't think it's super relevant right now. Yeah. So while we are, Smircha has another question. Can I use a single Rasa chatbot as a multi-tenant project with different data and different responses? How reliable will it be? Oh, so like multiple chatbots in a single Rasa project? So like just from like a machine learning standpoint here, and feel free to jump in whenever, Akela. But from a machine learning standpoint, right, what your NLU needs to do is from the sort of like mythical field of all possible things that people could say to your assistant, right? So it's bounded to begin with by the possible interactions that people will have with your assistant. Be able to correctly identify which category those things belong into. The bigger you make the overall field of things that someone could possibly say to your assistant, and the more categories you have, and the more those categories overlap, the more difficult of a machine learning problem it is going to be. So, in general, the narrower the domain of your assistant and the less overlap there is between your intents and the fewer intents you have, the easier it's going to be for your assistant to maintain it, because I do not envy somebody trying to go through and like annotate utterances after the bot's deployed if you have like 14 different things that your assistant can be doing. And B, from a machine learning standpoint, it's not going to take as long to train, you're not going to need as much data to train, and it's probably going to be more reliable. So I would argue against it again, from a general machine learning standpoint, unless you have a strong belief that all of these assistants exist within, the same space and they all need the same intents. And I guess you're just like answering the intents in a different way based on, I don't know, maybe you have like 4 restaurants in a chain and people are making the same orders at each of the restaurants, but like which database you go to look at to figure out how long the order is going to take is going to be different depending on the restaurant. And in that case, I think that's actually kind of one assistant. Yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I don't know. What would you say, Akela?
Actually, I'm not sure I fully understand the question, to be honest. So
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Smetrio, because I've had other people ask me about this similar thing. So they want to have one single Rasa project that serves as the backend for multiple assistants that people are interacting with.
So kind of like just shared I don't know, shared like use cases that like all the assistants would have.
So, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Sergio, but the way that people have brought it up in the past is that like you have all of your intents, you have all of your conversational flows, but like some of these are for an assistant where people are renting a boat, and some of these are for an assistant where people are ordering pizza. But they all live in the same Rasa, like the actual Rasa assistant. You were just interacting with them in different ways.
That is. Wait, how would that work though? Surely you have different responses per use case.
Yeah, I guess that you'd have like, again, like I've never like seen code for this. It's just people sort of describing what they want to do.
Yeah.
I think the intent is to make it easier to maintain several related or unrelated assistants in a single centralized place. But because of the assumptions we make about how it's going to be used in the Rasa framework, I think it's going to give you headaches.
I mean, I think we're talking just like shared skills that these assistants might have, right? That might so that you don't need to like store and change this data in multiple places. I don't know if this is what we're talking about. Like, I don't know. I mean, we do have some people doing this. Like, one customer kind of has a voice version of their assistant and a text version, and they have this like setup where they have the stuff like the dialogue. I mean, the stories mainly that are like common amongst the two, and they store that in like one folder, and then they all have the things that might like change based on whether it's voice or text in like separate folders, and they kind of maintain it that way. And then in their like CI/CD pipeline, they like mix and match what they're training for which assistant. So that's one way to do it. I mean, I think we're kind of like our product team is also looking at this topic a lot because this comes up from a lot of people, like our customers especially, kind of doing this like managing common data in one place and kind of making sure you don't have to update this in multiple places. And also like if you have multiple teams working on an assistant, how do you like deal with those challenges?
Yeah, so I would say that is possible, but not something we're solving for right now. You say it's a fair?
Yes. Again, if I understood the question correctly, I think.
Gabrielle says, we use Rasa at the 4th largest bank in the world, PagSeguro. I think, sorry, my Portuguese is none. Here in Brazil, we are constantly improving. It's very good. Oh, I'm delighted to hear that. I hope it's very helpful for your users and you're enjoying the framework.
I think I've talked to some people from PagSeguro at some point, but I think it was a while ago.
Oh, glad to hear you're enjoying it. Data Science in Holland says, is there any strategy to improve the NLU classification for longer sentences? The bot is working fine for short, but it occasionally fails to understand if we include the training on, so looking at one long sentence. I'm curious to know any strategy in addition to adding more training data to confront longer inputs.
I would say, adding training data for it is the main thing. I don't know if there's anything else you can really do there. It depends how long, though. If like people are sending you like a paragraph of text, then I mean, Rasa NLU isn't really built for that, like kind of having, picking out the right information out of longer pieces of text. I think the main thing I usually recommend to people there is that you have either you limit this like in your chat interface in the first place, saying like you cannot enter more than like a certain amount of characters, so you kind of make the user be a bit more concise, because yeah, that'll already help. But yeah, if it's just like regular long sentences, then I would say the best thing is to add it
More
to your
data.
training data.
Yeah. I guess I've got a couple questions, which you don't have to answer, just for you to think about. So, A, are these things your users are actually saying, or are these like test cases you are coming up with that your users might say? Because it's possible that no one actually does that, and you are anticipating a problem you're not going to run into, which is like ideal, right? That's the best case scenario. Also, if people really do want to send you really long messages, I might even do something like an action where, like Akela mentioned, you notice the message is really long and you're like, would you like to send this as an email? Like, are you sure you want to have this as a conversation? And like have an action that like lets people like kicks them out to an email form. And then the third thing that might be helpful is, depending on specifically why you're seeing misclassification, removing data could potentially be helpful. So what I mean by that is, if you have, just ignoring word order, right? If you just look at the words or the tokens inside each of your intents and your training data, if there happens to be a token that only occurs in one of your intents, but that in a longer sentence could conceivably occur in a lot of your intents, particularly a rare token, removing that from your training data, if that's the specific statistical cue that your system is picking up on, could help you avoid that. The other way you could get around that is that you could, add reasonable utterances that contain that token to other intents, and then it will be sort of down-weighted as a feature of that particular token. That's going to take a lot more sort of digging around in your model and experimenting to figure out if there is something where it's like a specific statistical cue. And what I might look at is compare the frequency of words in your training data to frequency of words in a larger normative corpus for your specific language. And you might even, depending on the language, there might just like be frequency tables. Like, so there's a lot of them for English where they're like, you should see the this many times in a million words. You should see an this many times in a million words. And if something like jumps out as like it's much more frequent in your training data than it should be, and in only one of your intents, then it should be looking at the sort of the normative distribution of frequency over the whole language, or language within a specific corpora. Then that might be something to think about if it's not a cue you want your system to be picking up on. So that's probably going to be more work than actually just having more training data. But if it's an embedded system, if it's important but it's very small, that could help. Yeah. Sorry, that was a very a very long answer to it. Yeah. A lot of folks being like, yes, good to separate out clients into different projects. Yeah. All right. I'm curious to know any strategies in addition to adding more training data confront longer inputs. Okay. So the example here is, are there any pizza shops versus we love to travel there and we are looking for a pizza shop to have our meal? Yeah, my guess is that like travel might be the token that's causing the issue there, because that's kind of rare overall in English, and it might be like if you have the word travel in another intent specifically, that could be what's throwing you off. Spreadshow says thank you, and Data Science Halen says, does adding entities, help for NLU classification?
If you're trying to extract entities, yes. Yeah. The is this up to date? Entity extraction and intent classification don't influence each other in our pipelines, do they? This was true a while ago, but I'm not like fully up to
speed. With diet,
I know it's done jointly, but I don't know if they I don't think they affect each other.
I don't think there's a direct relationship between them, but there is sort of like a mediated conditional relationship because they are learned jointly, if that makes sense. I would say, at least for people who are like prototyping, where I find that entities tend to help the most is if you have several intents that are very similar and you are using the intents to pick out information that you could instead pick out with an entity. In general, picking out entities is a simpler machine learning problem. And like I mentioned, fewer intents are usually easier. So
Yeah.
if you pick that information out into entities and then squish those intents, you'll usually see a bump in performance.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like a good example, the example I always use anyways, is like if you have a, like, I don't know, a medical assistant that helps you find like a doctor or something. And then if you have like a sentence like find a pharmacist or something, and like, and another one that's like find a dentist, then like instead of having two intents there, you would have one and distinguish based on entities.
Yeah. So like I would not expect a large change just by adding entities, although there might be some, but I would expect a larger change by reorganizing stuff to use entities. And
Yeah.
intentities, not a thing that exists. Entities instead of intents. All right, so we are almost at time, and I wanna respect your time, Akela. Are there any last words you would like to share with the Rasa community?
I don't think I have any last words. I mean, thanks for having me on this again.
Yeah,
Always happy to talk to our community.
yeah, thanks for joining. It was fantastic to have you. A lot of super helpful information. I'm looking forward to that IVR example. I'm definitely gonna look into that when it comes out. Rest of the week we've got, I think it's either tomorrow or next week. We have our release webinar. So head to the YouTube community tab. There's information there so you can sign up so you can attend live for the Q&A, and then the video will be up on YouTube after. And then tomorrow at the same time, we'll be continuing to read the paper about fixing NLU pipelines by Sam Bowman, which is it's been a good read so far. I think we're gonna probably finish it. And then on Friday, we're going to finish up our live coding and adding our action server. And I got help from Greg, and now I know how to do it. And it was just me getting confused between Helm and Docker Compose. So good learning experience for all of us, I think. Yeah, and then next week we will be back with somebody else fantastic. Everybody at Rasa is great. But the specific great person that we're going to be talking to is Christy again. That's right, he's back. He pitched in for Ben last week, so more office hours with him. So thanks for joining today, Akela.
Hours with the solutions engineering team.
Y'all are great. I think I mentioned before the solutions engineering team does our documentation, so they are the true heroes of Rasa. Yeah. Thanks for joining. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining, Akela, and